98% of children between the ages of 12 to 15 have one of these. Not an iPhone 10, that would be considered dog in today's world, but they have a smartphone. And that is something that a lot of parents are concerned about at the moment, which I completely understand. Hello and welcome to DumbphonesUK. My name is Joseph, and today it's a bit of a different video because with the recent discussion going on in the UK media about smartphones for kids, I figured why not create a video that hopefully will help you look at different phones that are available on the market and see if any of them suit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some phones that I have available. I'm going to show you the dumbest versions of phones on the market, which if you just want your kids to be able to text, to call, and some very basic other stuff, this could be the one for you. And then we're going to go all the way to what is effectively, it's just a smartphone. It runs Android 13, but it's a lot smaller, which could reduce, the time spent on the device, but it will allow you to have that flexibility of installing apps. So we're going to spend some time on the video today. I've got 5 phones in total. If you think that's going to be useful, please do like, please do subscribe. It really helps me, it helps the channel. As you can see, I've got loads of videos on the phones themselves, but I want to sort of move into slightly other topics. What this video should do is give you guys an idea, whether it's parents watching, whether it's kids watching, whoever's watching. Basically, it should give you an idea of a phone that could be suitable for you that isn't just a standard iPhone, Android phone that gives you access to everything out there forever. If you've got any questions, pop them below and I'll do my best to try and help out. Please enjoy the video and I will see you on the other side. We're starting with the Nokia 8210 4G. This little device, we'll be bringing back some nostalgia for you because this is a remake of the old classic Nokia that we all remember. And this device is probably the simplest out there, or at least the simplest that I've got to show you. This device is it can call, it can text, and they've tried to add some other features to it, which I'll talk you through. They're okay. I think the main thing is if you want a phone that can just call and text, this is probably your one. It really is a phone that you can slip in the back of your pocket, pop it in your school bag, and you know the battery life is going to last for a long time, and you know the phone's going to be available. So here we have the Nokia 8210 4G. This device only has 4G. It doesn't have Wi-Fi, which means that you have to have a data plan to be able to access the internet on this device. The device is super simple, right? It's got its keypad, it's got its call button there, it's got answer call button there, hang up call button there, and then you've got some features within this phone. I'm going to spend not a long time running through what this phone can do, but basically within this phone, what you have is you have 2 SIM slots in the back here. There's 2 SIM cards within here. Obviously, from our side, we only really need 1. And then when we hop into the menu by clicking this button here, we can see that we have messaging front and foremost. We have our call history, contacts, gallery. So there is a camera on this device. It is not good. You can see that the camera's quality is not particularly good. So you can see there is an option to take videos and take photos. They're not going to be great, but if it's something that you want your kids to be able to have access to, then there is one on there. There's only 1 camera, it's just on the back here. Super simple, nice and easy. It also has access to the internet. It uses a browser called Opera Mini. It's really basic. I'll link to the part of the video where I talk about the internet on this device. It's very, very basic and the internet doesn't render very well. The phone comes pre-installed with Facebook. I'm going to link to another video about this phone where I try and access all the social media on it, and you'll kind of notice that the Facebook that it does let you access is really locked down and basic. Because it comes pre-installed with the phone, you can't actually delete them. So it's on there. Even if you don't have Facebook, it still has to be on there. Bit of a pain, but not the end of the world. It then does have Snake, which obviously is a real nostalgic throwback. So there is a game on this device. It also then has a radio, and you can hop into music and videos, which you have to store on the device itself. Other than that, it does have other apps that come with it. I'd argue that, again, we don't want these. It'd be ideal if we could delete them. We can't. But there's Racing Attack, Tetris, and then English with the Oxford Dictionary. There is a calculator, there is an alarm, and then there is also a voice recorder, if that's something that is useful. You have the torch, and then you also have a calendar as well, which can be useful. You can pop in certain elements, not a load of information here. This phone actually does have Bluetooth, so if you had a set of Bluetooth headphones, you can connect them to this device and listen wirelessly, which is obviously a nice feature to have. A very simple phone. One thing I did talk about in the initial video was the texting experience. So I'm just going to show you, because we all remember typing once and it guessing what we're trying to say. This phone doesn't have that, so I'm just going to type the Hey, what you'll see I'm having to do is I'm having to click the buttons multiple times to get where I want to go. So I can insert a comma there and my space using my 0. This, oops, there you go, you can see I've made a mistake already. This is Joseph. Whee! So I'm using this button, this hash button, to toggle between the different types of text. So there we go, I've got it. But it's not the most intuitive typing experience because it doesn't have T9, which is a real misstep on this device, something that's super simple. And I do think that one thing that's putting youngsters off using these devices is the fact that texting feels absolutely mad on a keypad like this. I think T9 would have helped, but I did just want to flag up that this device doesn't have it. It's a super simple device and a great starting point for a really simple feature phone, dumb phone, dumbish phone, whatever you want to call it. We're now moving on to the Nokia 2660 and you might be looking at this mirrored screen thinking, what is he holding up? Well, this is the Barbie flip phone and this device is, I mean, it's fairly unique in what they've decided to do with it. It's effectively a Nokia phone that sits within this flip phone outer. You can see on the front here, I appreciate it is a bit light, you can see that there is a clock on the front here, and when you open it, you have your menu, you just have your normal screen as well. Now this device is again relatively simple. It's a bit more fun, it's a bit more exciting than this Nokia, but it runs the same software. They both run software called S30+. Neither of these Nokia devices can run apps that aren't already pre-installed on the device, so that is something to consider. So for example, WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, Life 360 I've heard people using, they're not possible on these devices. So if you're looking for a super simple device, and let's be honest, a fun looking device, this could be the right one for you. We are moving on to the Barbie device now. You can see me in the, I mean, this mirrored front is wild on this Barbie device, but let me close it and show you the front clock that you can have there. You also have a camera on the front and you have your torch here. Again, I will link to another video where this device comes with loads of different backs and you can accessorize this device, but in terms of the software itself, it is not dissimilar to the Nokia that I've previously just shown you, the 8210 device. It just has a different skin. It's still using the S30+ operating system. So it is relatively simple, in all honesty. It's got the same stuff. So it's got call history, contacts, the gallery, camera. So again, as I talked about, this does have a camera. You have to have the steady old hand of a surgeon to be able to get a photo that doesn't blur on a device like this. And it can also take a video as well. So again, you can take your video and it is possible. The quality isn't great on these devices, but I can completely understand that you might want your kid to have that available to them, so there is an option there if you need it. It does then also have messaging as well, similar to the Nokia device. As I mentioned before, you'd think it'd be a T9 system. It's not. This is me typing. Basically, it's clicking the buttons multiple times to get to where you want to go. It's not a T9 system, but the phone itself is a fun old phone. It also has the internet, similar to the other Nokia that I just showed you. It uses Opera Mini. Other than that, any additional thing that this Barbie device has, apart from the fact that it is a fun old flip phone that looks a bit funner, well, it has the same stuff. It has your alarm clock, it has your torch. So we can turn our torch on here, not the most powerful of torches, but a torch nonetheless. It has something called digital balance tips, and it sort of starts small and it talks you through how to reduce your screen time. And then it also has a Barbie meditation app as well. So meditate with Barbie, set the time you want to meditate. I want to meditate for 2 minutes. And you can sit and be silent for that time. It's quite a nice little feature to a device, and you know, if somebody likes Barbie, then it might encourage them to meditate. It's pretty much the same as the other Nokia devices. One thing that this device has and will have over other phones is the battery life. Because of the fact that you're not spending your time on this phone, on the internet, on social media, the battery life is far better on these devices. The other thing I wanted to mention is the size of the devices. They are small devices, they're light devices, so that is something to keep in mind as well. Two very good options when you're thinking of just starting out on a very basic phone. Something that would be really good for calling and for text, and in this case something that's slightly more fun, a bit different, something to stand out a bit more if that's what you're looking for. They're both really good options. They don't run WhatsApp and they don't support group text functionality either, and I think it goes without saying they also don't offer maps and things like that. I just wanted to flag that. Price wise, they're not particularly expensive. You're looking at, I think I paid £70 for that one, and I think I paid £85 for this one, and there are always offers on devices like this. We're now looking in the realms of Android phones, and we're moving up to, again, it's a flip phone. It is a big flip phone. It's something known as the Cat S22 Flip. And I've got an awful lot of videos on this device just here. This device runs something called Android Go, which is a stripped down version of Android, which means that you can install apps on this device. But given that the screen is the size that it is, you really don't want to spend too much time playing around. You still have the functionality here to use the T9 texting mode. You can also use a touch screen on screen. This is a phone that tries to marry both worlds. It tries to make what I would say, almost dumb phone, a dumbish phone, if you will. And then it also gives you that flexibility to install apps. There are some apps that don't render properly on that screen, unsurprisingly, given that they're designed to be on screens this size. This is a device that I wanted to showcase because it gets an awful lot of love online in terms of the fact that it's really reducing people's screen time, but still gives them those options for when they need to check the train times or when they need to load their emails or something along those lines. And I appreciate we're probably not in that situation with kids aged 5. If they're checking their emails, then I'm done. But it does give you that option if, for example, you needed WhatsApp. This is a phone that can download and can run WhatsApp. We're moving on to the Cat S22 Flip, what I would describe as an in-between device. Now this device is a chunky old thing. It's massive. With it being massive, it is known as a rugged device. So this can be dropped, this can be submerged in water, this can be thrown around, and because it is absolutely massive, it will withstand all of those bumps, which, you know, could be the perfect device for a child. One thing I want to show you on this device, and as I talked about, is it runs something called Android Go. What that means is we can hop into the Google Play Store and we can download almost any app on this device. So for example, on my device right now, I have my Outlook, so I can access my emails, and I also have Spotify as well. Within here, I can hop into Spotify. The phone has Bluetooth. I can connect to headphones. I can basically do anything I can do on my normal device. It's just that I don't want to spend my time using the screen because it is so small as a screen. There's no desire to spend my time flicking through Instagram Reels or TikTok or anything like that. Using social media is possible on this device. Here's a link to a video where I made it. I want to show you that everything that the device is able to do, but there is a much more limited desire because of the type of screen it has. So we have our text buttons down here. You can use these to text away. So I use the T9 texting on this keypad. You can also then use these buttons up here to navigate across. So for example, I'm just clicking these buttons, but you can see on the screen stuff's moving. So technically, if I didn't want to use that touchscreen at the top, I can just go through and use my navigation keys down here. However, there is also that touchscreen as well, which I think is super exciting. My text portal where I can send a message. So I've got the G keyboard set up on here so I can swipe to text. And it is possible, you can see on this device, on the screen itself, but it is fairly fiddly. The other thing I can do is change my input. And if I change my input to old T9 keyboard, what happens here is I then get the possibility to use these keys. So let's hope that's worked. So if we bring that back into focus, move that down, you can see that I was able to use the keypad to type. I can use the speech to type as well. So what can this phone do over and above the Nokia device that I've shown you? Well, the fact that it has Play Store, that you can hop into the Play Store and you can download any app, is a one step up in terms of its ability. Because it runs Android Go, not every app is going to work as expected because of the smallness of the screen. So for example, there are some apps that I have downloaded and since deleted on this device that don't run particularly well on here. Majority, I'd say 95% of them do. So for example, for a while I had WhatsApp on here. WhatsApp worked absolutely fine. I had Telegram, I had Signal. I tested them, I tested social media. So this device is something that I think is a really good transition device. Now it also does have a camera on this device. You can take a video, and the video actually doesn't render that poorly. It also has a camera here as well, so it has a front-facing camera as well as the back-facing camera and the torch on the device, which does mean that you can do WhatsApp video calls on this device, and again I'll link to that to show you a bit more. This is a really good device in terms of its ruggedness. It's a really good device in terms of what it's able to do. However, because it runs Android Go, you can install apps on it. So if apps are something you're looking to avoid, this probably isn't the right device to choose. One thing it does come with as well is GPS, so you can use Google Maps on this device, and it can give you instructions. Again, I'll link out to a further video that I've created on this, just not to waste your time on here. So it does have an awful lot of features packed into it, and so I wanted to mention it as a potential phone for you. We're moving on to a phone called the Bigme Hibreak phone. Why am I introducing this phone to you? Because it looks basically like an Android device, right? Everything about it looks normal. Well, it uses an e-ink screen. So when I showcase this to you a little bit later, you're going to see that this screen doesn't refresh, doesn't work quite as well as the screens on our Google devices, on our Samsungs, on our Apples, and therefore I think this could be a good option. Because it is e-ink, which is the same technology as Kindles and Kobos and things like that, it's supposed to be better on the eyes. It's got a backlight, as you can see. So this is currently running Android 11. Now, I believe the most recent Android is Android 13, so it's a couple of years behind the curve, but that doesn't mean that it's not supported. So very much you can hop onto Google Play Store and you can download the apps that you require. And the reason I wanted to introduce you to this phone is because I do think it could be a really good solution, because the phone itself, because it is that bit slower, you don't want to spend ages on it. But it does give you all of the possibilities to download the apps that you require. And I think that could be useful in some scenarios where you feel that your child needs access to those apps that you want them to have access to. Because it's Android as well, it does mean that you can install better parental controls within the Nokia phones. Because they're so basic, there's some element of parental controls, and they're not great. Anything that runs Android, be it Android Go, Android 11 or Android 13, which we'll get to, it means that you can install parental controls, and therefore you could lock down the phones more than perhaps you could on those earlier feature phones. You could well give your kid a phone that is going to have an unbelievable battery life because of the fact that it's e-ink. It's still able to access all of the apps, everything that you need it to access and everything that you might want them to have access to, but because it's e-ink, it's that little bit slower, so that it doesn't have that pull that you want to spend their time on the phones. Videos don't render that well, so spending time flicking through Instagram, TikTok, etc. wouldn't be that desirable on this device. Now this device is, I mean, it just looks like, from the outside, a normal Android device, right? It just looks like a normal everyday phone. It uses a USB-C charger. However, when you look at the screen, it's that bit duller, it's that bit e-ink, which means that the refresh rate on this phone is a hell of a lot slower than your normal phones. You can see I'm swiping and it's taking time to actually register what I'm doing there. So I'm going to show you this on this brightness bar here. As you see me drag it down, you'll see it will take effect, but the actual icon will take some time to register it, which is a fairly good showcase of how this phone works. And one thing that this phone is very capable of is it has the Play Store here, and that does mean that it comes with every single app available to you. You can see that all of the apps are available. This is the color version of the device. There's a black and white version and a color version, and you can see there's sort of a muted yellow on there. Again, you can see on Instagram there are colors behind there, but they're fairly muted. You'll also see some ghosting on this phone. So this bar above us here is moving along. However, because it's e-ink, you can see there's text behind here that's previously loaded and just hasn't rendered properly. You can refresh this device by flicking it up on the right, and you can see it all looks a bit better. I'm not going to spend too long on this device because I don't think it's going to be the device for everybody. I think this one is probably the wild card. So this phone has everything that you need. It has a camera, so it can take normal photos and normal videos, and they come out pretty well. So the reason I've mentioned this phone is because, sure, you can have Spotify, you can have this phone connected up via Bluetooth, you can have every app, you can have Waze on there, you can even have a banking app if required. So therefore you could install anything that you feel that your child requires It also means that there's access to a Play Store on there for them to hop onto and download stuff too. I would say that downloading social media on one of these phones is, I mean, rubbish is unfair, but the quality, the slowness of how everything works just makes this phone less desirable. So if you want to give your kids the option to have a full smartphone, but with a slow refresh rate and a slow screen to potentially put them off using it, or at least reduce usage, this could be a good device. Again, price-wise, it wasn't too bad. I think it was 100 and something, so much cheaper than an iPhone. You do have to order it from China because it is a Chinese brand. Finally, we have the Unihertz Jelly Star. Now, this little device is just that. It is tiny, right? It's a tiny little device, quite thick. This is the Jelly Star. You can see in terms of size, absolutely tiny. In terms of thickness, quite large. But I wanted to introduce you to this device because this runs full Android 13, which means that you can download any app, anything that you would normally run on a modern day smartphone, you can run on this device. It's a touch screen, it's a tiny touch screen, but because of the size of the screen, what this does enable you to do is have access to all of the apps that you feel your children might need access to. However, having used this, I don't think that there's going to be much sort of desire to spend loads of time on this device due to the size of the screen. Watching a video on a screen that size, I appreciate that is what we did back in the day with iPod Nanos and things like that, when that was all we had. But I do think that there's something really nice about having all the functionality of a modern phone, but having it in a slightly different package. That's why I wanted to introduce you to this one as well. So we are moving on to our final device. This is the Unihertz Jelly Star. This phone is tiny. It's got some lights on the back, which the video that I pop up now will go through in much more detail. I'm not going to spend my time, but it has a fingerprint sensor here. I can pop my finger on there and the phone will unlock. This is just a normal standard Android device. So you can see that this has everything that an Android phone has, that it's currently running Android version number 13, which is the most up-to-date version of Android. So basically, this is a device that is as powerful as current smartphones today, just in a smaller package. So you can do everything that you would on a normal device. You can take photos, you can take videos. This one even comes with a time-lapse feature, pro features to sort of improve your photos. So you can see that the device itself is far more powerful than the other ones that I have displayed to you. The screen size is the interesting bit, the thing that I think you'll find interesting. So you can download any app that you want. So you can see that I've got WhatsApp, Docs. I've also got a card on here, so I can technically touch this phone to pay for stuff, not that I do. For this device, for example, I can hop onto the internet. It comes with Chrome already installed. I can go onto Google and I can hop in to BBC Sport, which is where I like to spend my time. You can see that it just runs like a normal device. Everything renders, it's just that bit smaller. You want to hop into YouTube, so you can still use everything on this device. Hello and welcome to DumbphonesUK. My name's Joseph, and today have I got a treat for you. Ooh, I don't like hearing myself. But you can see that you can just use this device here as a normal Android phone, but the screen itself is tiny, which I would argue would reduce screen time. I just wanted to introduce to you as a potential as a phone that will give your child all of the access to all of the apps. And again, parental controls as well, because it's a full Android phone. As I mentioned, when you hop in here, there is actually a student mode. Within student mode, you can set yourself a password, or you know, a parent or guardian can set a password, and then that means that once student mode is enabled, you can restrict the installation of apps, you can restrict screen time, which you can do outside of student mode, but without that password, it means you can't get around it, which for a full Android device is something that I think is really useful. So there we have it. That was me displaying all of the phones. Now, I don't want to make a decision for you lovely people. Some people's requirements are literally going to be being able to call their child on a walk home, right? And if that is the case, well, then that could be the perfect device for you, the Nokia. However, you may need an app, or you may want your child to be on specific WhatsApp groups, etc. Well, then you're going to need something that runs a version of Android, and whether that's the Unihertz Jelly Star, or whether that's the Cat, or whether that's a different Android device. There are options out there. Please do like and subscribe. I hope it was useful. Any questions, pop them below. I will aim to answer them. I hope that was useful to you. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure making the video, and I'll be back soon with another one. Behave yourselves. Bye.